our learning target is I can calculate a percent yield from theoretical yield and a given actual yield. So you need to know what actual and theoretical yields are, and you need to know the percent yield formula and how to use it. So percent yield, what is it? It's the amount of product that is actually formed in lab compared to the theoretical amount calculated. So basically it's a calculation of the efficiency of the lab. Okay, percent yield is going to tell you how well you conducted your lab experiment. Now, what is the theoretical yield and where do I find it? Is our next question. This is the amount that would be produced if no error were involved. All right, and you get this from doing your stoichiometry problems. So theoretical yield is an amount that is calculated. So you should never ever have over 100% and almost never have exactly 100%. There's always some error in there. So the actual yield is what you actually produce in the experiment, and since we can't just stop taking our quiz or test or whatever and go do the experiment and get the actual yield, you will have to be given that in the problem. So the formula is fairly simple. It's just a percent formula, so you take your actual value, divide it by your theoretical value, and you multiply that by 100. So let's look at an example problem. So if the theoretical yield for a reaction is calculated to be 14.8 grams and 9.25 grams were obtained in lab, what is the percent yield? So remember that you should be underlining and circling things as you go, as you read your problem. Okay, so in this particular case, we are looking for percent yield. So I'm going to take this off because it doesn't usually like it when I leave it on there. So let's ask ourselves this. What is my actual yield? And what is my theoretical yield? So it says 9.25 grams were obtained in lab. So that is going to be my actual yield. Whoops. And then it says my theoretical yield was calculated to be 14.8 grams. So that is going to be my theoretical yield. So when I plug that into my formula, I do 9.25 grams divided by 14.8 times 100. I get 62.5. Not a great percentage. So we need to go back and look at, what our lab procedure is. So let's look at another problem. So silver bromide was produced by reacting 200 grams of magnesium bromide and silver nitrate. Calculate the percent yield if 375 grams of silver bromide were produced. So again, as you're reading this problem, you should be underlining 200 grams of magnesium bromide, calculate percent yield, all right, and we have 375 grams of silver bromide. So let's kind of interpret what these things mean. The actual yield is what we produced in lab. So it says calculate the percent yield if 375 grams of silver bromide were produced. So if we actually went into the lab and did this experiment, we would get 375 grams of silver bromide according to our problem. Now the theoretical yield is not given because if you read this, it says 200 grams of magnesium bromide. Well, you can't compare magnesium bromide to silver bromide. So we are going to have to calculate it doing our stoichiometry. So we need our balanced equation, which we have here. We have 200 grams of magnesium bromide. We are looking for grams of silver bromide. So we work through all of our math and we end up with 2.173 moles of silver bromide. We're going to convert that to grams, and that's our theoretical yield of 408 grams of silver bromide. So then we plug it into our formula, which remember 375 was our actual yield, and your percent yield is 91.9%.